Now let's get into our hot call of the week. Well, it's a little caliente in here, ladies and gentlemen. We got the hot call. This is going to be America's game of the week, right? We call it the game of the week because we know more than half those a-holes that have shows. No, I'm just kidding. No disrespect to anybody but Nick Wright and Max Kellerman, right? Is he even still on the air, Max Kellerman? He's gonna come at me, bro.
So.
Let's do a celebrity boxing match. All right, come on, Max Kellerman. Talk that cash, boy. Anyways, for my hot call of the week, I ended up going with the Lions versus the Chiefs. Man, that's going to be a fun game. Lions are clicking on all cylinders. The Chiefs look like the Chiefs of 2 or 3 years ago, right? Where they were just, outscoring you, right? They lost to Jacksonville. Granted, Jacksonville played an excellent game, but that's one of the more busy, games we've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs in the last couple of years, right? They start kind of shifting towards take what the defense gives you. And that game kind of looked like, yes, that's what they played. However, they were looking to score some points. Now, although I don't have anybody specifically I love on the Chiefs side, I'm one of those sell high on Travis Kelce, sell high on, Xavier Worthy, because you're not going to get that consistency all the time. But, on the opposite, the Lions side, you're going to start everybody you have on there. I know Chiefs are a good defense and all that, but I think that when it comes to like these kinds of matchups, those juggernauts just kind of trade blows. And Detroit's, I'd say, easily a top 3 offense in the league. So I expect them to light up some fireworks. Can we predict who's going to be who on, both sides? No, just go with your gut and start whoever you think has the best matchup.
That's what I was going to say. It's difficult to think about who to start on both of those teams. I mean, there's the automatics, of course. You're playing Gibbs and you're playing Amon-Ra St. Brown. But like
Montgomery.
Of course. Yeah, I'd play Montgomery too. Absolutely. And the thing is, though, it's like, Jameson Williams, I was really high on him going into this season. I actually played him over Devonta Smith in one league last week, and it cost me the game. And it was a last-minute thing. I just looked at the matchups and I was like, oh man, Jameson Williams playing Cincy, Devonta Smith's playing the Broncos, and I put Jameson Williams in there, and that was obviously a mistake. It cost me. And that's what's a little worrying about the Lions is, you don't know if Laporta is going to have 20 points or 4 or 6. It's a little stressful sometimes, but you're still going to start Laporta. And I'd put Jameson on the bench, but all the other guys, I'd play him. And then with the Chiefs, that's another one. You don't know who to really play. I mean, Travis Kelce, yes, you're going to start him. He had a good game last week. Finally, that was a nice little rebound. And Mahomes has looked awesome. So you're going to play Mahomes and you're going to play Travis Kelce. And, at receiver, luckily you're going to have Rashee Rice back soon. But I'd play Xavier Worthy, and I'd be pretty confident in him. But outside of that, I'm obviously not starting either running back. Yeah, Kareem Hunt had a couple touchdowns, but he had like 10 yards. No, that's like if you need him in a double flex league, that might not be a bad play. But like you're holding your breath for 10 points.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just hard with the Chiefs and the Lions. It's hard to know who's going to go off, but I do see that being a high-scoring game. Despite them both having a legit defense, I think that's going to be a battle. But yeah, who to play outside of the automatic roster starts is difficult.
And I think more like plug in for the bye week, right? There's a lot of people dealing with bye weeks.
Yeah.
Now we're going to be seeing this for the next 4 or 5 weeks, right? Luckily the NFL kind of compressed it down so the bye weeks aren't as far out. So I think it's like weeks 5 through 12 or something like that, or 11. But definitely there's a lot of people facing some question marks this week for starters. So if you can plug them off the free agency wire and just plug them in for a game, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, like Thornton is in a bad start. He's had the last 3 out of 4 weeks have been pretty legit for him. So, if you need a plug and play, he's not a bad option.
Or Hollywood.
You never know. That's what I'm saying. There you go. There's 3 examples of 3 more examples for it's difficult to say who's going to go off. Now, for my hot matchup, I've got the Bears versus the Commanders. The Bears were a little banged up going into their bye week, but they're back to full health, and the offense is looking good. The same applies for the Commanders. They've had a few injuries along the way, but the offense has been really strong, and the defense is kind of struggling for both teams. So that's always promising from a fantasy perspective. And for the Bears, I'm starting Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, and Roma Dunze. I'm a little nervous about DJ Moore unless it's like a double flex and you don't have a better option. But yeah, Caleb Williams has been awesome. DeAndre Swift has been at least, a solid enough floor, and Roma Dunze has been awesome too. So if you do need a spot start at tight end, just because I believe this is going to be a high scoring game, this is a very risky play. But if you need a spot start and you're desperate, you could plug in Cole Kmet, who had 9 targets last game, but he only had 3 catches. And that's a very risky move. But I'm just saying, if you're real desperate, you can reach. And then for the Commanders, I'm going to start Jaden Daniels, Krosky, Merritt, and Debo, of course. I'm a little hesitant to start Terry McLaurin because he could be limited. You got to keep an eye on that as the week plays out. If he's limited in practice all week, he might not be able to make those, sprints downfield just yet. You might want to hold off. But if you drafted him, you're probably going to start him. And hopefully you have a better option than Zach Ertz at tight end, but I have him in like 5 leagues. And he finished with 0 points last week. I mean, the first couple weeks were great, but the last 3 weeks have been bad. He had 6 points, 6 points, then 0. So let's see if he can bounce back with like 10 to 12 points in a high scoring game this week. But hopefully you have a better option at tight end. But unfortunately for me, I'm going to be playing Ertz in a few leagues.
You know what? You either get 0 or you get 10 points. That's the way of the tight end, right?
It's the truth, man. Now let's get into our cold calls. For my cold call, I got the Browns versus the Steelers. Yeah, the Steelers, again, it's a divisional matchup from 2 of the best defensive units in the NFL. And the Steelers have been suspect, but they've got flashes of greatness. And I still think they're one of the best defenses in the league. And we know that the Browns are. So any kind of divisional matchup in the AFC is going to be a hard-pressed game. And the Steelers are rested after the bye week, and they're playing at home. So this is going to be a really fun game for me to watch. And it's probably not going to be great for fantasy, but it will be an entertaining defensive battle. And for the Steelers, there's only one person I'm starting, and that's DK Metcalf. Everyone else, including Jaylen Warren, I'm worried for this game because Jaylen Warren could be limited, and the Cleveland is just so mean against the run. And for the Browns, I'm starting Quinshon Judkins, and that's it. There's no one else you can even really think about except for, maybe Njoku if you're desperate at tight end. But honestly, I think that's it. It's DK Metcalf for the Steelers and Judkins for the Browns. And with a lot of players on buys again, you might not have better options than Jaylen Warren. But I just wouldn't expect a big game from him. You're going to hope for 12 points because you're talking about the number 1 defense against the run. And on top of that, he's coming back from an injury. So just pump the brakes all around. Even with DK, he had a great, great game last time he was on the field. And he is coming from a bye, so he'll be ready to go. But this is a tough game for both teams.
That fall off for Jerry Jeudy needs to be studied, man, because he was actually getting drafted in the same area. He was right on top. He was getting drafted right before Roma Dunze and all these mock drafts and every other draft I've ever seen, right? Because people were pretty much had all those guys the same. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Roma Dunze. Like not in that particular order, but that was kind of the category that they were in. Xavier Worthy, like wide receiver 2s. And obviously he's somebody that's a wasted pick, but just Cleveland in general, you're right, man. It's a crapshoot. Dylan Gabriel's probably going to start again. Maybe we'll get some Shador Sanders. Who knows? But Steelers side, you're right. I am so happy that the only share of Steelers football I have is literally DK Metcalf, and that's
same. Yeah. And dude, like what you're saying about Judy is I gotta say, I was not high on him at all. I didn't draft him in any leagues, and it was because he's on the Browns. And it's funny. I'm excited about Flacco going to Cincy. I think that's gonna be awesome. Like, yeah, he's gonna make things happen. But I did think that about Cleveland too. I thought that Flacco was the right guy. I mean, I don't know what the situation is in Cleveland, but it's real bad. Aside from Quinshaw Judkins, there's no one on that offense that you can get excited about. And that team as a whole is just in disarray, but the defense is rock solid. So yeah, it's funny with Flacco. Like he's a stud, and I like him as a fantasy quarterback specifically. But I thought he could make something happen in Cleveland, even though I was down on Jerry Jeudy. I thought that offense could do all right with him, and I'm really hoping he can turn it around in Cincy because I've got a lot of stock in Chase Brown and also Jamar Chase. So I'd like to see some more boom games than garbage time.
Mm-hmm. Now for my cold call, it's not hard to see which game stinks for the week. So my mind automatically like scrolls and then locks in. So this week's shitty game, cold call or cold game of the week, it's gonna be Titans versus Raiders, man. 2 1-4 teams going at it. See who has a smaller penis.
I figured you were going to say that game, man. I was looking at that game too.
And man, no offense to anybody on either one of those teams, but they're both struggling, man. I don't want any shares of any players on either side. Well, maybe with the exception of Genty, right? Like he's the only guy that's consistent, and it took him a while to get on too. I think it was about 2 or 3 games before he finally popped off. And on the other side, the Titans side, Tony Pollard finally had a decent game. Cam Ward finally had an all right game. So did Calvin Ridley. I just can't trust that consistency.
No way. No chance.
They're in a tough division now because Colts have a really stout defense. I just don't see it going their way, right? So that's someone that a game I want to stay far away from. And I am so happy that I did not tell any of you to draft any of their players, with maybe the exception of Ridley. That I'll be honest with. I liked Ridley. He's probably my shit call of the year.
Well, a lot of people were real high on Ridley. He's the last couple seasons, though, has been peaks and valleys for him. You never know what you're going to get. He's boom bust. And, dude, I'm sorry, but with those offenses, exactly what you said. Like, that's why I was not as high on Ashton Genty. And he has looked really good recently. And he actually looked good, like, from the start, but just not what we wanted. It took him a while to have a boom week, and we did see it, but that consistency concerns me a lot. And I don't know if Brock Bowers is going to play this week either, but I think he's banged up, and he hasn't been playing at the level you drafted him, not even close. So there's a lot of hesitation, and these boom bust players, they're the last guys I want on my team. Even when they do have those big weeks, then they hit. There's so much stress in between that I'd rather just have the consistent 15 points than someone that's going to get you 7 or 8 one week and 25 the next.
And you know what? This is the same discussion we keep having, right? We keep telling people stop overvaluing tight ends. We're number 1 and 2 right now. Trey McBride and Brock Bowers were both being drafted in 2nd and 3rd round. That means those guys to be drafted in 2nd and 3rd round, they have to produce at least like 20 points or more per game for it to be a successful draft pick for your fantasy season. Now, if you ended up waiting, like I told you guys, and pushing it to weeks 9 or rounds 9 through 12, you were able to get at least 1 or 2 of the top 5 fantasy tight ends here right now. Freaking Jake Ferguson is tight end 1, right? And then Dalton Kincaid is tight end 2. And those guys are being drafted late, And then it goes to show you, you should never get a tight end before a certain round because you're never going to get – right now, these guys are killing it, and they're averaging 10 to 12 points a game, And then you have somebody like Trey McBride and Brock Bowers will get a 30-point game and then a single-digit game, and then you're like, you call it peaks and valleys, feast of famine, whatever you want to call it. It all means the same thing. It means that you're overvaluing a position. So if you have one of those guys, somebody in your league is weird and likes tight ends that much, trade it to them. Get yourself maximum return. Same thing goes for quarterbacks. You can replace them like this, so sell them off high while you can.